Welcome to the driver's seat. We are wrapping up a week with this all-new Hyundai IONIQ5 fully electric vehicle. It's Hyundai's first dedicated platform, and with the IONIQ6 coming out next year, you can see where they're headed with the whole IONIQ brand. It's really going to become kind of its own sub-brand. Yes, the Kona EV was a pure electric vehicle. It was Hyundai's first pure electric vehicle, but that was on the Hyundai Kona platform. This has its own platform. And starting price is about $39,000, fully loaded $55,000, and then you have to add almost $4,000 to get the H-Track, which is their all-wheel drive system. Now, one of the things I like about this vehicle is the fact that the two-wheel drive is a rear-wheel drive system, which is better for pure driving dynamics. Traditional vehicles have an engine in the front, rear-wheel drive. Obviously, this does not have an internal combustion engine. It's fully electric. The range ranges from 220 miles for the base standard range model, all the way up to about 303 for a two-wheel drive extended range. This one that we have today has the H-Track, so you're looking at about 260 miles of range, and it's been relatively true to that. Styling is very futuristic, but also kind of retro. It's like, let's call it retro futuristic. As you can see, it almost looks like a vehicle that has some 80s styling to it, with the kind of funky wheel design. These are 20-inch wheels. You have 19-inch wheels as well. You have this clamshell hood, so very very uniform, and they stick to this styling throughout. Now, the sister vehicle to this is the Kia EV6. They are basically identical underneath, but I don't really care for the styling of the EV6. I think this suits me a little bit better. I'm not sure if I'd go with these wheels, maybe some different wheels, but you can see that they've really done some nice features, and you have the pop-up door handles, for example, which Teslas have and other vehicles are incorporating. So as you walk up to it, you don't even have to touch your key fob. It just opens up. It's got the smart trunk. And it's essentially, they call it a crossover, but let's be honest, this is really like a 5-door hatchback. Because it's an electric vehicle, you have so much more room underneath, and we'll get into the interior, but it's a very versatile vehicle. Again, starting price of $39,000. I think for about $45,000 you could get yourself a nicely equipped one, depending on where you live, if you want the two or the all-wheel drive system. You do get some confusion if you get 2 or 3 years of Electrify America charging. We're going to go with 3 years. We've seen some conflicting information, but you do get free charging. Now, that's public charging, and that's a whole nother video about the pros and cons of that. But we're going to get inside because we're in the middle of Hurricane Ian right now. Picked a great week to review this car, but it is what it is. It's actually a good test to see how the batteries perform in different temperatures, and how the H-Track system will handle some of this wet asphalt. You're now inside the IONIQ5. As you can see, you have a 12.3-inch infotainment screen here, all the information you need. 12.3-inch gauge cluster, very contemporary, very open feel, all the right controls. You have this center console that can be moved back and forth. I really like the shifter as well. It's very simple, just push in for park and drive, reverse, very simple. So let's go for a little ride in this wet weather. We've put about 650 miles on this vehicle in the time we've had it, so I feel like we've had a proper experience with it, and highway driving, city driving, a little bit of everything, wet, dry, you name it. And it's performed brilliantly as we expected. Very comfortable, very roomy. This vehicle has the panoramic sunroof, and it just makes it for a much more open, kind of non-claustrophobic feeling, very open and airy. The acceleration is around 5 seconds. We've heard of some people getting even faster than that, 5.2, so somewhere between 4.8, 5.2, depending on the conditions, etc. But it's plenty fast. As you can see, very confident driving here. So let's talk a little bit about the one pedal driving. So, for someone who's never driven an electric vehicle, it might be a little bit of a shock when you let off the accelerator, how it grabs. And right now it's grabbing moderately, but with the paddle shifters, obviously we don't have gears. Traditional paddle shifters will go gear up, gear down, but in this case, when I hold this left one down, the vehicle will almost come to a complete stop, and it will eventually. So this is done for regenerative braking. We've talked about this in many other videos, so there's nothing really new here, but the car companies are getting better and better at this, and I think that for someone maybe taking a test drive, you might be a little shocked, maybe uncomfortable with how that reacts. That oh my God, usually you let off the accelerator and the car coasts, as it's doing right now. But when you put it into the most aggressive regen mode, it will grab at a much higher rate, and more like this. And for some people, that is a little bit of a discomfort. So anyway, just something to think about when you go test drive it. Be aware of that, and just realize this is how electric cars get more efficiency out of there. So you do have out of their powertrain. So you do have different modes. We were just in normal. So we go into eco. That's when you get more aggressive. It shuts down on the power. So one thing I want to talk about is the HVAC system, which is a fine system, but in order to save, and realizing a lot of times that people who drive these vehicles, or any vehicle, there'll just be a driver in the car. Well, in that case, what's nice is you can only have the driver's side HVAC on, and that saves a little bit. Every little bit helps with these vehicles. I feel like the suspension is dialed in nicely. So we're going to go into a little sport mode right now, and you can just see how much faster the accelerator responds. So everything changes, the steering, the throttle response, etc. So if you're not trying to conserve, then certainly a much more fun experience. So we're just going to take a quick little drive over here, and just to see what it's like on an open road, on a highway, and you can get a feel for the acceleration. So one of the things that Hyundai and Kia have done, I'm going to demonstrate it right now, is they'll alert you when the leading vehicle is driving away. So now you can see the acceleration. Not bad. It's up to 60 miles an hour pretty quick. So when you're in this power mode, it really everything changes as far as the what's on the gauge cluster. But notice that when I put the right turn signal, so you have a camera under the right side mirror, and it shows me what's there. There are no vehicles there. You also have blind spot monitoring, lane keep assist, lane tracing. I mean, I don't want to say it's self-drive. It's not super cruise like General Motors, but it is getting there. It's a very engaging infotainment system. We're going to go over here to the home screen so you can see all the different things that. This is the one that kind of default shows me my range of 94 miles. Shows me my battery here. You can see this is not a slow vehicle. It's roomy. It's fun. I think it's got all the right tech. I've talked to some IONIQ5 owners, and they're very thrilled with their purchase or lease. But yeah, this is here to stay for a while. But what's nice about this, the paddle shifter system, is when you get into a turn, if you want to slow down, you can just, instead of hitting the brakes, you just grab onto the paddle shifter and it'll basically regen the batteries while slowing down. We're on a pretty sharp off ramp here, or on ramp, but it handles quite nicely. This is the H-track system. Even though we're in sport mode, it's still doing a great job. In my opinion, driving Hyundai vehicles and reviewing them for about 15 years, the seats have been hit or miss, but they really stepped it up on this IONIQ 5. Extremely comfortable seats, and if you compare it to the EV6 from Kia, with the sister vehicle, I think these seats are much more comfortable. Again, the vehicles perform very similarly because they are the same, but I like the styling of the IONIQ 5 better. As you can see, it's very responsive, great field of vision, no blind spots to obscure the driver. It's all the right safety features, all the right technology. Hyundai has definitely nailed it. You know, because of this platform, the wheelbase on this vehicle is actually longer than the wheelbase on Hyundai's largest SUV, the Palisade. So just put that into perspective. You've seen the Palisade on the road. Looks like a proper size, kind of mid-size crossover, and to think that the wheelbase on this is actually longer, that's impressive. This is a very premium feeling vehicle. Doesn't feel like a cheap electric car. When I think back to the first generation Nissan Leaf, and that was the first mass-produced electric vehicle, we've come such a long way in just 10 years, and we're just going to keep moving this forward. And this electric platform gives designers a lot of leeway as far as design and what they can do with the space. So even though on the outside this may not look like the biggest vehicle on the road, I could tell you this much: it's certainly roomy and has a lot of very practical storage spaces, and they did a good job. You think other vehicles you could compare this to is for example, the Volkswagen ID.4. Hands down, I would take this over that. The Toyota BZ4X, I like the Toyota brand, but they've had some problems and had to recall those. So today, I would say I would take this over that. And you look at other vehicles out there, pure electric. We recently drove the Volvo C40, for example. Well, here's the problem with that one. $60,000, only 240 miles of range. So yes, you can get this close to $60,000 as well, but it's bigger, it's roomier, and you get more range. A lot of things to consider. The segment, the whole EV movement, whatever you want to call it, transformation. It's just every year is just going to keep growing and growing and growing. But there are still a lot of issues with infrastructure. As you can see, the styling continues in the rear, and what you're seeing right now is their smart trunk. I'm not touching anything. I just have the key fob in my pocket, and it opens up automatically. As you can see, there is plenty of room in here, and of course the seats fold down. One of the things you have on this vehicle is called V2L, or vehicle to load. You can actually use this vehicle to power up all sorts of electrical appliances and whatnot. You could even charge another vehicle. It has 400 watts of output, so really a nice feature. And we demonstrated earlier using how this can be used to charge up our Sprinter camper van, for example. But really like the styling. It's very clean in the back, in my opinion. I like the light treatment. they just did a great job. And a lot of times people ask me, would you buy this car? The answer is yes, I would. I think it's priced right, but keep in mind, a year from now, you're going to have a whole new set of vehicles coming from General Motors, electric vehicles, and the Equinox is supposed to be around $30,000, so figure 10 grand cheaper than this one for, I'd say, a comparable vehicle, and that's a significant difference in price. But overall, I think Hyundai did a great job. Also want to mention that this is the only vehicle today, mainstream vehicle, that can accept a 350 kilowatt charger. When you go to Electrify America, most stations just have the 150s, but they're adding more and more of the 350s. There are a handful of vehicles like the Lucid Air and the Porsche Taycan that can accept that higher level charge, and this vehicle can. So you can actually go from 10% to 80% in 18 minutes if you're at an Electrify America 350 kilowatt charger and everything's working right. We demonstrated it. Here's a time-lapse video showing that, which is a really interesting specification for this vehicle, because if everything lines up right, you could be on the road very quickly. I'm Doron. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on The Driver's Seat.